Hello, podcast listeners. Do you like podcasts about the Scream franchise? Well, that's what you've got coming on. This is your host with the most, JJ, and I'm joined by Tucker to talk about Screams 1 through 7. And then, inexplicably, the View Askew universe as well gets pulled in. And then at one point, we just start talking about parody films. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast about Scream. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
Tucker, I recently, meaning in the last 24 hours, saw the movie Scream 7 on opening weekend because I do not ever want to be spoiled on what's going on with the Scream franchise. And to be fair, I'm a fan of the Scream movies, and Scream 7 is horrendous. The acting is bad. Everything about Scream 7 is garbage. Like, plot points. There's even a guy who showed up who, like, the second time you see him, and he's a nothing burger character. I was like, wait a minute, is that? And then the guy next to me goes, yeah, that's him. Can you believe it? He looks bad, huh? Now, I'd like to go on a quick jaunt through the Scream franchise with you. How familiar are you with the Scream movies?
Familiar enough with the original trilogy. Okay. After that, my knowledge definitely drops off.
Okay.
But, I mean, when did the first one come out? Was that 97?
1996.
96.
Yep, okay. And then the sequel comes out, like, less than a year late. I think the first one comes out, like, December 20th. The second one comes out December 12th the next year.
Right, so that's around about the time that Titanic is out. Right.
Yep.
And that's what I remember most about that era, because I was in the 7th grade and everyone talking about Titanic, but Scream was the new horror film, like the new instant classic franchise. It was clear when it started.
I think that's the key here. Like, it's a classic. So for those of you who don't know or need a little like uptick, so the first Scream movie, directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. The idea is that it's very meta, right? It references scary movies in a way, and it is a scary movie about people who like scary movies.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, is it the first time we really get a character in cinema who is an insufferable film nerd?
Yes.
Like the kind of jerks that we were, that people were like,
with the exception of maybe like Clerks and like all of the Kevin Smith stuff that you get like in Clerks.
Good call.
But yeah, it's the first time that you get a character that you're like, oh boy, this feels very real to me.
That their superpower is basically they know a lot about movies,
right?
Because it's how it helps him survive.
And it's not only that they know a lot about movies, but like they take the point of dissecting them and telling you like, this is what's important in the movies and these are the things that you need to know.
Yeah, at this time,
the rules, quote unquote.
At this time, all of this, like the internet was still very new.
Very new.
And so all of this kind of information, for the most part, you would probably have to go to some nerd that you knew that would be like, hey, tell me about this, because there's no other way for me to find out about it.
You were having conversations with someone at a Blockbuster Video, right, who also had seen Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors 25 times.
Yeah.
And had seen a work print cut, that included these 3 scenes you didn't see before, because this is also before the DVD revolution. So things like making of featurettes, you would maybe catch one thing somewhere, but for the most part, a movie gets released, it's in theaters, and then it's out of theaters for a significant amount of time before it hits the rental market, and it's in the rental market before it becomes available for the consumer market. So really, in all honesty, a movie like Scream could come out in December, stay in theaters until May, and then be released on VHS only to rental places that next fall you could finally buy it and own a copy a year later, right when the sequel's coming out.
And those markup prices, those premiums on that were pretty high. Like those video stores were paying a couple $100 a tape.
Yeah, which is
A
why they would
tape.
put melted VHS tapes as like heads on spikes to warn you, like, hey man, you got to pay full freight if you do this, or if you lose it. I was in that industry, man. I saw some of those costs, and the thing is that when you were charging $2 a rental for it, it means you needed to rent a tape 50 times before it paid for itself.
It's so funny how wistful I'm getting right now about how you and I have both had plenty of conversations with customers over their unpaid rental fees, and the titles that they were renting, and all of that stuff. Gone are those days, right?
I know, it's too bad. You could, the worst case scenario is you leave your Netflix recently watched up and someone's like, you watched a lot of horse movies. What's going on?
Yeah.
So the first Scream movie comes out, and what I think is so brilliant about Scream #1 is you have no idea who the killer is. Even when they disclose who the killer is, you're like, yeah, that's one of the 9 people I thought it could be. Courtney Cox is in it, Nev Campbell. There's a huge amount of young unknowns to that point who are in Scream, and it instantly becomes, like you said, a classic. Wes Craven does a great job mixing these comedic elements in with the idea that it's referential, right? There's rules in a scary movie, and the original title of Scream was Scary Movie. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. So the first Scream comes out, instant classic. It's got a great soundtrack. Henry Winkler has an amazing role as the principal in it. So much so that when they make the parody film Scary Movie, they hire the guy who played Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley to be in that same kind of idea. And that was just brilliant to do that. So you get Scream, and the last 30 minutes all takes place in one house. It's awesome. Scream 2 comes out a year later, and I remember reading in Entertainment Weekly about how they had to use a special kind of paper for the script that you couldn't Xerox.
Right. Well, and I'm sorry to go back to Scream Run really quick.
Oh, go back. Listen, we'll go back and forth all day.
But think about the opening sequence with Drew Barrymore.
Right, and everyone they highly publicize that Drew Barrymore's in it. She's front and center on the poster.
Yep.
And to find out that the quote unquote main character is killed off in the first 10 minutes.
First 10 minutes, and in a very now absolutely classic scene. It's kind of, I think it's worth resting on that scene for a moment because it also ties into all the other parts about this franchise which became iconic. The scene with the phone call,
the voice.
See, what is the? I know there's a name now for the Scream slasher, whoever it is at that time with
Ghostface. They call it Ghostface.
There we go. So the ghost, the visual of Ghostface becomes iconic from that scene, which is a big deal in horror in the slasher genre, because if you don't have the slasher antagonist visually distinctive enough, it's gonna just be, it is merely a rehash of Halloween,
right?
Or, Jason, I guess Freddy Krueger's not necessarily the same thing, but still, right? The horror murderer vicious monster antagonist. So we got that landed. And that opening scene is probably the best scene in the entire series.
They also do something that I've come to appreciate, which is in the nightmare, Halloween movies, right? Or the Friday the 13th, Jason, Michael Myers are these sort of unstoppable, gigantic men, who are just moving, and even when you throw rocks at them, it doesn't stop them.
Supernatural in some way.
But the way that the Ghostface killers move in any of these is very human in their motions, right? You see them having to kick their legs up when they're running because they've got that giant skirt thing hanging around their ankles. The way they slash around, the fact that you can hit them with something and they fall over, it gave a very human quality to these things rather than the supernatural, as you were mentioning there. Yeah. It also should go to note that Wes Craven pretty much brought the slasher film, the teen slasher film, to where it was in the 80s. He shepherds it. It goes into the mid 90s, and that it dies, right? Like they oversaturate with too many things, too over the top, and they decide, nope, like this genre is dead, which is why I don't think that they have any idea that Scream is going to be as big as it is. And then it becomes massive, and they decide they need a sequel immediately. So they make the second one. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, no. I was to return back to the second one. Now, what you were just saying before I derailed you back to the first one was the scripts that could not be Xeroxed, which is so phenomenal to think about on so many different levels, right? Because one, the internet is still very new. I don't know if Ain't It Cool News had even started yet at this point, but there are message boards popping up. There are film companies actually starting streaming cameras behind the scenes that take a new photo every 24 seconds or something, so you could kind of see behind the scenes of stuff. But also the idea that they had to make a printed script that could not be Xeroxed, because that would be the method of copying. There were hardly cell phones. There were cell phones, but there
was no cameras built into them. There's nothing.
There was no sense that was even on the horizon, right?
It amazes me, because what would happen with a leak essentially is you'd have to get that leak to the press. And then the press would have to decide whether or not they're going to do something with it. And so, even when they would comment on rumors, oh, there's a rumor that someone Xeroxed the script and they said this in it. But again, you would have to, there's no digital format of this script other than the one that Kevin Williamson had using Windows 97 Word to type it out. And so it was a different era for movies.
95 at that point. You never know. Maybe he didn't upgrade. He didn't upgrade his Dell computer.
It was Miramax, so maybe they didn't have the cash at the time to outfit him. So I am just amazed at this is one of the last movies before the digital revolution, and in a weird way, it shepherds that fandom for movies onto the internet, right? It becomes if you want to know about Scream 2, you got to go to the internet. You have to go to your local library, you have to hear the dial-up tone, and then you got to find a website on Netscape Navigator to see what you're going to do. So the second movie comes out, and people they still like it, but they're less enthralled with it.
Which isn't a huge surprise necessarily, because sequels in general, either underperform or underperform maybe expectations, if not money, because it ends up being a rehash of what you've already seen.
Okay, so looking back 30 years later, this is what we have to give it credit for.
Okay.
In the context of the universe of Scream, Gail Weathers, played by Courtney Cox, who's a journalist, has written a book in between the last movie and this movie called The Hillsborough Murders, which is a sequel to a book that she had written that's referenced in the original Scream about the murder of Sidney Prescott's mother. Okay? That movie in between is optioned to be a feature film, and the second movie, Scream 2, opens with characters we've never met before going to a sneak preview of a movie called Stab.
That's right.
Which is the events of the first Scream movie.
That's pretty
And
great.
they set something up there that I think is really unique, because now you are beholden to the fact that everything that is true in this universe is also being turned into entertainment in this universe.
Yep.
And so you've got, I think it's Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith going to see this movie, and there's a vibe, right? Like they've given out ghost face masks, and it's interesting because it's all of these people going to see this slasher movie that's based off of real events, but they don't have any real direct relationship to it, so of course they just see it as entertainment. Whereas when you think about it, when you watch a horror movie that has some basis on truth, there's someone who this is a horrific event from their life, but we're watching it as entertainment. So again, going back 30 years, Kevin Williamson was pretty far ahead of his time with what he's doing there. And so you get this gigantic opening, and what amazes me is while they're watching the movie Stab, and it's Heather Graham starring as Drew Barrymore, who's playing, as Casey Becker, right? And they're like, one of the gals, Tori Spelling, plays Nev Campbell's part, which is a joke from the first movie where they're like, well, if they make a movie out of this, Sid, who are you going to be? Probably Tori Spelling or something. And now they've created this universe within a universe, which does make things unique and becomes the driving factor of like the next 3 movies. Because after Scream 2 ends, which, by the way, if it was insufferable before when you were watching Randy working at a Blockbuster, putting movies away, trying to figure out who the killer's going to be, it's even worse when you see Randy at his goddamn film class at college, where they are breaking down sequels now, and how there's no such good sequel, and it's all just rehashing the old stuff, and it's referencing
part
itself.
Of a trilogy, right? I think they make that argument that unless because they try to say, well, Empire Strikes Back, well, it's part of a trilogy, right? Godfather Part 2 is part of a trilogy. That's the differentiator of that. The one thing that I can recall from Scream 3, which I did see in the theater, is that the Jay and Silent Bob cameo. That was actually I think, I could be wrong, but I think that might be the first time I actually saw Jay and Silent Bob in a movie.
What?
And that I could be wrong, but I think I'm right that I saw that and I knew who they were culturally, like it had crossed. I knew.
Really?
I believe so.
Like what
year did Scream 3 come out?
2001?
That tracks pretty closely because
Wait, hold on. So you had never seen Clerks, you had never seen Chasing Amy?
By the time I had seen Scream 3,
Dogma?
I believe I'm remembering this correctly. I have to go back and check the timeline, but I remember the first full-length Kevin Smith movie I watched was Dogma.
Okay.
I don't remember, but I think I watched it after I saw Scream 3, but I could be wrong. And then Seminole, one of my best buddies, had a sleepover birthday party where we watched, at that time, all 4 of the Kevin Smith movies. So we watched Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and then Dogma. And we ate Taco John's. It was awesome.
Nice.
And
I mean, that's a pretty good birthday.
It was a pretty damn good watch through. But yeah, I have a memory of seeing them in Scream 3 and going, oh, I think I've seen these guys. I know who these guys are. They're in that movie Dogma. And then I went and saw Dogma, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And then I watched all 4 movies up to that point at Ree's birthday party.
Because I think Dogma still would have been in theaters when Scream 3 is released.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it came out towards the end of 1999. Scream 3 comes out February 2000.
Right. So, I mean, essentially, the View Askew universe and the Scream universe
they're directly tied. So
tied.
much so that in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when they're running through all the movie studios, they happen upon the filming of the next Scream movie starring Shannon Doherty, and they unmask the killer, and it's a chimpanzee. And she goes, God damn it, Wes, because Wes Craven is in it. And she goes like, a goddamn monkey, and he goes, testing says people really like monkeys.
My absolute favorite part is, I don't know, action, Gus? Jesus, Ben, I said I'm busy. And he's just counting money.
Gus Van Sant is counting his money. Yeah, listen, we should take a deep dive because the Clerks films that he makes are fantastic going forward. Like, Kevin Smith has made some good stuff. He's also made some bad stuff, but he's made some really good stuff.
All I care about is that he makes his movies, right?
Yeah.
That's what I care about, is that, it's definitely a Kevin Smith movie. He's not out there making someone else's movies for the most part.
Which is nice. Okay, so Scream 3, the premise of Scream 3 is we don't even see Nev Campbell's character for a while. But what happens is they are making another Stab movie, which is the movie within a movie, and murders start taking place surrounding the filming of Stab. And so they, so then, Dewey at this point, who's David Arquette, this might be David Arquette's best role ever. He's so good in these movies, and every time he gets like stabbed, and like he's more and more like crotchety every time, and you find out that he and Gail couldn't make it, and then they did make it, and then they couldn't make it, but he is an advisor on the film. And it's interesting, but then they bring into this whole thing about like it's the third movie, and then they talk to Randy's younger sister because Randy gets offed in the second movie, and we find out from Randy's younger sister that when you get to a third film, there's no holds barred. Like it could be anyone, it could be anything. Yeah. So if someone is still following the rules. Now, the third one, and also you get a Cotton Weary is a big part of the third one. Cotton Weary played by Liev Schreiber, who in the first film, there's like he's a small part. In the second film, he's a bigger part because the character Nev Campbell had accused him. So he had been having an affair with her mom, and she had accused him of being the one who murdered her mother.
That's right.
And he had spent like a year in jail as a wrongly accused man. And so he's trying to get Nev Campbell to agree to like a Diane Sawyer interview. And he's like, you owe me this because you accused me of murder and I didn't murder your mom. And so Cotton Weary plays a big part at the very beginning of Scream 3. He's a Hollywood big shot. And that's where, like, now all of a sudden we get into the world of, like, cell phones are way more prominent. Even in the second film in 1997, they're still relying a lot on landlines, right? So Sydney's got a caller ID when she picks up her phone in her dorm room. And Sarah Michelle Gellar, has a phone when she's running around the sorority house. But this time, Cotton has a cell phone right at the get-go because we're in the year 2000 now. But by the third act of Scream 3, you're just like, this is ridiculous. Are you kidding me? It was bad enough, like, your big reveal of a killer in the second movie, but this one you're like, really, guys? Come on. Then we have a big gap, and it is, in fact, 11 years until we see another Scream movie, Scream 4. And we had, there's always these little things about, like, we'll get another Scream one of these days, and we really need it, and will it be a reboot? What's it going to be? But so Scream 4 comes out, and it is directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson, right? So the original duo gets back together. They're able to get all the original cast, and what they opt to do with Scream 4 is they bring together a cast of now younger teens, right? So it's Sydney's niece and these young high school kids, but then there's the original people who are a part of it. I like Scream 4. I actually find Scream 4 to be kind of endearing, and at that point, they are now commenting on the state of horror in general and how it's become torture porn. And so most of the horror movies that are coming out, the Eli Roth type stuff, are just visual feasts of disgusting stuff. Like, sure, in a slasher movie you see someone get stabbed, but in this you're seeing their entrails come out, and you're seeing people flayed and put onto stages. And so they're talking about how the deaths have ramped up. They also introduce, and this drives me nuts, a character who has a webcam on like strapped to their head, so they're constantly streaming everything. And in the context of this, they have continued to make stab movies even though there hasn't been fresh content. And so in this town, they do a stab-a-thon every year, and all the high school kids go to a barn and they put up a projector and they watch all the stab movies, right? And it's coinciding with murders happening in their town now. I think it's in the fourth movie too, where they have an amazing callback, because at one point they show the high school and they have a bronze statue of Henry Winkler, who was the principal killed in the first one. And so it is an interesting way, because the fourth movie is about saying, listen, we are giving this franchise to a new generation, but we are going to have all these callbacks, which makes my generation all the more excited to see it. It should be noted that Scream 4 is the first Scream movie that I did not have to bring a parent or sneak into, because the other three I was too young to see. So much so that I almost got banned from Safari, the movie theater, because I snuck in through an exit sign to see Scream 3.
I bet that just made the movie even better.
It really did. And I wore this weird like fedora hat, and I was pretending like I was older. I'm like, oh, how's it cool? You know, like it was the dumbest disguise.
You were a real tips milady at that point.
I was.
That's one step above like you and your buddies standing on each other's shoulders with a trench coat on to pretend you're just an adult.
Exactly, right? So Scream 4 comes out, and Scream 4 becomes a success, right? We haven't seen this franchise in 11 years. It comes out, in fact, like, let's see, the movie had a budget of $40 million, and it made $97 million. So it made its budget back times 2 and then over that. So you would think, oh, man, they're going to be clamoring for this. Turns out they weren't, and it took a long time. It took, in fact, another 11 years, right? Yeah. So wow. Scream 4 comes out April 2011. Scream, which is technically Scream 5, comes out January 2022.
I'm trying to remember and this ties in, when did Iron Man come out? 2008?
I think so, yeah.
And this is 2011 we're at right now, 2012 when...
2011 when Scream 4 comes out.
Yeah, so the industry as a whole was really in the grips of superhero mania.
Yes.
You know, and at the very beginning of that superhero mania. So other genres, while they might have attracted audiences, they weren't, like, Scream was no longer going to be that singular piece that cuts through the pop culture and kind of dominates everyone's mind for a time, because we're already out of that monoculture world as well, right? We're in internet now, and people are kind of separating out what they're giving their attention to. It's not as potent of a place to land.
Well, and to further the point of, like, people's tastes have changed, and, like, the teen slasher, just like the teen sex comedy disappears too as a genre. The movie Saw comes out in 2004, Saw 2 2005, Saw 3 2006, Saw 4 2007, Saw 5 2008, Saw 6 2009, Saw 3D in 2010. And then there's a gap for 7 years until we see Jigsaw, and then there's 4 years Spiral, then there's 2 years till Saw 10. So, to be quite honest, people got into that other style of horror movie, right? That, like, ooh. And gone are the days of finding something where it's kids being tormented and they found another, you know, the movie Hostel comes out in that era. And I think the taste of people going to movies has changed. And you would think that an established franchise like Scream, where you're carrying characters over and over and over, would have had a deeper appreciation during the superhero onslaught, because this is something that you want to see, right? You want to see the same characters. You want to see them in new situations. You want to see them interacting with different people.
Right.
And they just couldn't nail the landing for it. So Scream 5 comes out in January of 2022.
And so again, so Scream 4 has 10 years before it and 11 years after it. Is that what you said?
It's 11 years before and 11 years no, 11 years before and 11 years after. Yeah, so Scream 4, is stuck in an island.
It's on an island. It's of time, and so many things will change over 22 years.
Right. And so one of the big things that changes is anyone that they had established in Scream 4 as one of these new characters gets left in the dust, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So by the time Scream 5 comes around, in fact, I'm trying to think, and I think the sheriff deputy is the only character that carries over into Scream 5, if I'm not mistaken, other than the OG characters who are still around, right? Like the people who are there. And now it has to deal with other, family members and Sidney Prescott coming back, to fight the ghost-faced killer again. And Scream 5 really does a hard sell in making it so it's like, hey, listen, we're going to follow these new characters. Then Scream 6. So Scream 5, 2022. Scream 6 comes out in 2023. So it's a year and like 2 months later. This is the furthest departure from the series that you're going to get, because Neve Campbell chooses not to be in this one. She's been in every Scream movie since, even if she's not necessarily the main character. She's still the driving force behind it.
Right.
They set this one in New York City. It is completely different. It's refreshing. Some people really like it. I was like, meh, I'm okay with it, but no big deal.
Any idea if her not being a part was just a creative decision? Was she offered something? She said no.
I think long story short is they were not going to pony up the dough that she wanted for it, right? Like they didn't give her the money. And Scream 6 is not a flop, but it certainly isn't what they expected it to be, if that makes sense.
And I wonder too, I mean, we'll never know, but I'm in Nev Campbell's position for sure, especially if I get a script that's like really shitty. It's like, all right, I'll be in the stinker, but you're going to have to pay me a lot to do it because being in this movie isn't going to help me out after the fact.
And I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to Nev Campbell, but it's not like her career was white hot at that time anyway.
But yeah, no, I'm not
right, but like,
I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying if I'm in her position, she's like, listen, I don't actually need, I've made my money. I'm doing great, right? I don't need this job. You get famous people to do jobs for cheap because there's something else they'll get out of it on the other end.
Right.
And without there being a script that is just like, oh my God. Like not to derail you any further, but had they said, hey, Tucker, magical time, you get as much money as you want and you get to make the next Scream movie, I'd say, great, we're actually doing a different genre, but in the same universe.
Yeah.
Different genre. It's actually going to be a drama this time with a little bit of mystery and maybe a killing.
I should also mention too that Scream 5 was the first Scream that since Wes Craven had died.
Oh, okay,
and so it's the first time that they did that. And Scream 5 is made for $24 million, makes $138 million. So of course they're going to try and get another one, right?
And
so
it's the same continuity, right? It's a continuation.
Same continuity. Yep. It's just a younger generation, right? It's the newbies. It's bring people in. So then you get Scream 6, which also is made for $35 million, but makes $145 million. And so at this point, they're like, okay, listen, there is still some real life left in this. And they decide they're gonna keep moving ahead on this, and they're gonna still do some stuff. And so then they're like, okay, Scream 7. And Scream 7 had been kind of marred for a long time. Again, the last time we saw these characters was in 2023. Mm-hmm. And I think that they were hoping like, hey, let's get one out in 2024 and let's get one out in 2025. Early 2026 is the first time they can get the next one. And rumors start going around that Matthew Lillard's character is going to come back. They don't have any idea what's going to happen at this point. And there is a distinctive choice they make with Scream 7 to say Sidney Prescott, Nev Campbell's character, is a mother now, right? She has children, she's got a husband, and this is the first time that she's had to go on this fight for it. So that's where we take it to Scream 7. I'm going to try really hard not to give away any spoilers. So, but just if you're someone who's like, I got to go in pure, first of all, you should have been there on Thursday if you claim to be such a big Scream fan. Secondly, I will try not to. This movie is horrible. They reference no less than 10 times, Tucker. Well, you weren't in New York. I know. I should have been in New York. I know you weren't. I should have been in. And it was like, is Nev Campbell saying she should have been in the last movie, or are you saying that Sydney's character should have been there? Because it sounds like it might be a little bit of both.
Right.
The plot holes are massive. They are massive. They do one thing and one thing only that is the only thing I think is good in this, in which the town goes under a curfew because there's a killer on the loose, right? And at one point, one of our characters is running down the streets like in like a downtown area, and nobody's there because the curfew's in effect. And so it's this sort of like, that story in The Boy Who Cried Wolf, who after the wolf actually comes and no one answers the door or anything like that because they're all protecting themselves from the wolf that's really real now. That's kind of the feeling. That was the only good part of this whole movie. They went full on into the more disgusting style of death in some of these things. So like using the deaths to be like, oh, hey, how can I do something that's utterly grotesque or comical in a way, right? I didn't care for it. They brought back some characters, and I was like, I couldn't even remember who some of these people are for some extent. And the thing that drove me the craziest, the movie is all about artificial intelligence. It's all about AI. And I'm like, did they use this AI to write the script? Because that's kind of what it feels like here. They're like, no, yeah, no one's going to... We don't need to have any foreshadowing of why this person would know all the combinations to get into some of these buildings that have mechanical locks. It is so bad. And I don't know what was going on, but Joel McHale has some of the like weirdest line delivery and then looks. He plays Sydney's husband in it. And they have the part of the plot that they don't even acknowledge is the fact that at Sydney's house, they're building this addition where it's like they're building onto the garage, but then there's also stairs in it. And so, of course, that becomes like a place that they go, for one of the scenes. But I'm looking at it, and this is how little I care about the plot. I'm like, what the hell are they doing with this addition? It's not bumping out the kitchen. Like, what are they doing here? I don't understand, like, what this addition is that they're putting onto the house. It makes no sense whatsoever. It was so bad. And here's the thing.
Home ownership is what took you out of the movie eventually.
It was. Oh, and they kept showing pictures of the house over and over, like the house is supposed to be some big deal. And I'm like, I don't care about this house.
Those windows aren't sealed.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. But the thing, like the beginning of the movie so they sold little tiny ghost-faced action figures, a cup that had Ghostface. I mean, these things are all $30. They are sold out. By the 6 o'clock show, they are sold out because so many people want them. They've got collectible posters. People have Ghostface masks on. It felt like the beginning of Scream 2 when they go to see Stab. There was a huge energy. It was great.
How can something be scary when everyone loves it is something that's
it's so much fun
for me to think about.
It's like... It reminds me of when I dressed up my coworker Derek Hansen, who sort of looks like Thanos, and painted him purple and made him come to Endgame, and he had tons of people take pictures with him.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's fun, but that's what I'm saying. Like at Scream 1, you were genuinely terrified because this wasn't we weren't all Ghost-faced fans yet, right?
Yeah, and now we are. And here's the problem. By the time the movie ended, people left behind their promotional posters. There was not this like, oh, people were disappointed. And that sucks. So Scream 7, to not put too fine a point on it, is a big turd. It's like someone had diarrhea into a puddle of gasoline and then flicked a match onto it and was trying to do a dramatic walk away. But actually what it did is it made like a small explosion, and then that poop went all over the back of that person, and they kept trying to look behind them the whole time, be like, do I have shit on me? Do I have shit on me? That's what Scream 7 is. It's unfortunate.
I'm looking for... All right, their domestic opening was 64.1 mil.
It was packed. I mean, the screening I went to was packed.
So globally, it's debuted with almost 100 million. Despite receiving the worst reviews in the franchise's history. It's got a 33 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, so...
Damn.
I have an idea for Scream 8. And it actually steals from a different Wes Craven movie.
Is it in Scream 8, is there going to be any kind of a joke about how 7, 8, 9?
It should. It really should. Okay, well, because 9 doesn't exist yet, so maybe that's the stinger during the credits. So here's my idea for Scream 8. Did you ever see Wes Craven's A New Nightmare? No. It was part of the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
No, but I do distinctly remember the ad campaign because it was in a lot of my comic books that I had.
Okay. So the premise is that, and this is kind of like right before Scream becomes a franchise for Wes Craven.
Yeah.
A New Nightmare, the premise is that Wes Craven is Wes Craven, and he's writing a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And it follows Heather Langenkamp, who's the woman who played Nancy in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But it's a movie, but it's not a movie, right? It's following her in quote unquote real life. And Freddy has found himself out of the movie world and into the real world, and she is fighting Freddy in the real world, even though this was just a movie that she made when she was a kid back in the 80s. And there's something about it that I really like. Like, it was just different. So, like, at one point, like, while Wes is writing, it shows the effects shop that's working on all, like, the stuff that they're going to do, and, like, the finger glove starts to move on its own. And it's just sort of this weird, creepy thing about how, like, art takes its own life at one point. So here's my premise for Scream 8. they're going to make another Scream movie, but fans have become so obsessed with this and have been so disappointed in where the franchise has gone that they start killing the actors in real life. Big premise is that all these characters they're playing themselves. So like someone is after trying to kill Nev Campbell in real life to succeed where the movie never could. And the great thing about that is you could bring back all of these people from all the movies who've already been killed, right? You could bring back David Arquette. You could bring back Matthew Lillard.
What's the name of the nerd who dies, who's big into, he dies in Scream 2, right?
Randy. Yeah.
Like you could find some old like blog of his on like archive.org or something where it's like, oh my God, he made this blog about how if a franchise ever gets to the 8th film.
Right. I mean, but or really like that's where you could incorporate someone like real people from Ain't It Cool News, right? Like you'd have to say like, who's the suspect in this? Anybody who's ever reviewed this movie and had like a bad taste in their mouth. Like it could be something that's very self-referential, and then really it'd be like it's in quote unquote real life, referencing the movie Scream, referencing the movie Stab. It's a movie within a movie within a movie, Tucker. I think so meta.
Your Scream 8 is good. My Scream 9, if they were like, all right, you get to follow up JJ's movie now, I'd be like, it's full on crossover with a View-esque universe. And it's like Jay and Silent Bob are with us most of the movie, and Ghostface is killing characters from the View-esque universe.
I like that.
So he's going through and he ends up like killing Dante, and killing Randall, and they got to stop him.
An interesting tidbit, they showed the trailer for the new Scary Movie that's coming out this summer, and that had a bigger reaction than Scream 7 did. So just kind of the weigh-ins really knocked that one out of the park.
Which number are we with Scary Movie?
I believe this is Scary Movie 6.
Okay.
So it's fallen behind. Last summer I did something really fun where I watched Scream, Scary Movie, Scream 2, Scary Movie 2.
Solid.
Back and forth. Yeah.
I love Scary Movie 3.
It's so good. Do you know why you love that? It's because that's when they brought in the Zucker brothers.
Yeah.
And they realized, like, listen, let's go full on into movie parody history.
I think I still remember how hard I laughed when they parody Signs and the scene where his wife has gotten into the car accident, right? And so the cop is trying to tell him what's happened, and so she's using different pieces of food and to say that she's been cut in half. And then at one point she takes a hot dog and she breaks it in half, and he goes, "She broke her wiener."
See, my favorite part of Scary Movie 3 is Charlie Sheen comes out and his brother-in-law is standing there, and they're looking into the distance, and he goes, "What's going on?" He goes, "The dogs are acting weird." And it cuts to a shot of the dogs, and one of them is like doing backflips in a tutu, and then there's a chihuahua in a chariot being pulled by a wiener dog, and I'm just like, oh, you guys nailed it. So good.
Imagine a Scream Scary Movie crossover.
I mean, there should be, right?
They might as right?
They virtually have it.
If everything is about meta on top of meta on top of meta, the Scary Movie franchise literally took the unused title of the Scream franchise, went ahead and parodied Scream mercilessly amongst all these other things, and then went off to be sort of a more generic franchise of let's make fun of whatever has been in horror movies recently,
or just in movies in general.
In movies in general, like it's from that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's from that we get not another teen movie, not another this or not another all the
superhero movie and
all that kind of stuff. So really, I would love a Scream 10 should be a crossover between Scream and Scary Movie where the two franchises murder each other.
Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, we could roll with that for sure. And you know what? I'm pretty sure it's the same production company. So
yeah,
let's just roll with it, baby.
Which one is I think it's not another teen movie that Chris Evans is in.
It is not another teen movie.
And he does rule in not another teen movie.
Because he does what Leslie Nielsen did, which is he takes it totally seriously.
Plays
Like
it
he's
straight.
in that movie, and like that. Any great parody film is done with someone who treats it as if it's legit, which is the same reason why Muppet Christmas Carol is so good, because Michael Caine treats the Muppets as if they are. In fact, I heard this recently, which is like Muppet Christmas Carol is great because Michael Caine treats the Muppets as fellow actors.
Right.
And Muppet Treasure Island is great because Tim Curry is a Muppet himself.
It's just an extension of committing to the bit. Right?
Yes.
If you commit to the bit, that's the goal. That's the fun of it all. And when actors of that caliber treat it that seriously, that is the I think of Liam Neeson coming into the Ricky Gervais office. What show is that again? Where
In Life's Too Short, I think, right?
Playing himself, and he wants to get into improv comedy. Mm-hmm.
Tring, we're closed.
Liam Neeson completely commits to the bit, and which is why it sells so incredibly well.
Yeah. Word to your mother, man. I love it. I love it so much. Also, by the way, I just want to say this before we leave. If you've never seen the movie Shocker by Wes Craven, don't. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. Ironically, I don't think that there was an adult film version parody of Scream. And there should have been, because you could have just called it Scream.